Greetings from the Idiot Box, where we explore the good, the bad, and the wacky in television. I'm Allison Lips. Today, Joel Thurm joins me to discuss his long career as a casting director in television. His book, Sex, Drugs, and Pilot Season Confessions of a Casting Director, is out. You can get it off of Amazon.
And the cheapest, and buy the soft cover, not the hard cover. The hard cover cuts off a picture on the front cover. And you save money with the soft cover.
That is true. So,
Okay.
not everywhere books are sold, but Amazon, which is probably where you get most of your.
Yes. Or directly from Bear Manor Media, but
Yes.
Amazon's the best.
Yes. But you can support Bear Manor Media. Lots of good books there. Friend of the podcast, Adam Nita, publishes books through Bear Manor also, so please support them.
Yeah.
And getting back to your long career, you started in the theater and then you moved out to Hollywood. I don't remember exactly the first show, but what I've been watching was the Bob Newhart show just because I wanted to watch it. And I not expect didn't expect to see this at all and saw your name in the credits and I'm like, "Oh, that's cool. I know that guy. That's cool."
Well, my mother liked seeing my name on screen, so that was cool too.
And you mentioned the Mary Tyler Moore, the MTM shows. I believe
The
there
MTM
was
MTM company, yeah.
yes. I'm not sure how interested anyone else would be in this, but you mentioned Grant Tinker, Brandon Tartikoff, and Fred Silverman, and my main interest is the business and the industry aspect. So when you
Yeah,
gave
well,
some
those
information,
Yeah, well, those are three very, very important people in the
yes.
business. So if you have questions of anything on my interaction with them, just ask.
And you are also head of TV talent at Paramount. I'm just trying to provide context for those
Mhm.
who have no idea who you are.
Okay.
But he Joel has pretty much touched not
Can
every,
I give
but most of the
can I
important
give you the
shows.
short can I give you the short version? Okay.
Absolutely.
Movies. Grease, Airplane, Rocky Horror Show.
Yes.
Television. Taxi, Love Boat, Fantasy Island, Starsky and Hutch, Charlie's Angels, Boy in the Plastic Bubble. That's enough to talk about. Pick a topic. And then
Okay.
later on, of course, It's My Party, a feature film.
I guess we're going to start with Grease
Yeah,
and Boy in the Plastic Bubble, and
terrific. One led into the other, of course.
yeah, Welcome Back, Cotter as well.
Well, I had nothing to do with Cotter. I just
Okay,
watched.
but you just knew John Travolta
I've
somehow.
known Travolta since he was 17. His manager was a terrific manager. I'll just tell you some of his clients. The manager was Bob Lamond, and the clients were, in no particular order, Travolta, Patrick Swayze, Jeff Conaway, Holland Taylor, Catherine Helmond. Is that enough? In other words, he had great clients. He had great, great clients. And so when Travolta graduated high school and moved into the city of Manhattan when he was 17, and
Yes.
that's when I met him when Bob took him on as a client. So we still do late night non-sexual texting, by the way. He never sleeps. So he's a vampire. So every once in a while, he'll be up.
You mentioned the Grease reunions in the book. Are they still going on since
No,
Olivia
no.
Newton? No,
Oh,
because
oh, no. First of all, no, COVID put a stop to that.
COVID.
Yeah, December of 19 was when we did the last ones in Florida.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, it's not a TV show, even though this is a TV podcast, but let's talk about Grease because you are heavily involved with Grease based on
Yeah,
your
a little bit.
stories in the book.
Yeah, well, they're all true, and they've been vetted by both John and Olivia. So
Okay.
before I published Sex, Drugs, and Pilot Season, I ran what I wrote about John past him and Olivia past her, and the Phoenix family,
Yes.
who I found, and Joaquin and River and all that. So I ran their chapter past, well, because I didn't want to print anything that wasn't accurate, or if someone
Of
really
course.
hated. Fortunately, the only thing that was the only, not even a complaint, the only comment Travolta has was that I put the incorrect salary for what he got paid for Boy in the Plastic Bubble. He corrected that, so he got $75,000, just in case anybody's curious.
Hey, and, and do you want to go into a little bit about what your job as a casting director is for those who aren't familiar with the industry and don't know what exactly that does? Granted, casting director sounds
Okay, what?
self-explanatory, but there are multiple facets to it. You don't just
Well,
go,
I'll try to give you the Cliff Notes version of it, although I
yes.
should probably read it from my book because it took me a while
What
to
page is it on?
oh, I don't know, and I don't even have a copy handy. I usually
Yeah.
keep a few over here, but as you can see, it's a bit of a mess at the moment. I'm in the middle of reorganizing things here. So a casting director, all right, a casting director is hired to basically suggest performers to whoever is making the decisions.
Yes.
Sometimes the director is the most important decision maker, sometimes it's the writer. Television, it's the writer, film, it's the director. It usually works that way. Although now, since who knows, television is becoming much more important than movies, things may have changed. I don't know. But anyway, so I'm given a script and I just write down suggestions of who I see in roles. And my suggestions vary. Is this an independent movie with no money, and a schlocky independent movie, or is it a classy independent movie where even though there's no money, you may get some good people because of the writing? So you make your list according to what the project is, and then you sit down and you discuss these suggestions with the people who are doing the movie, the director and the producer and the writer. And sometimes everybody knows the actors and they say, oh, that's a great idea, set them. And so there are usually a number of those people that they know and say, great, let's just do it. And, and then,
Are you okay?
yeah, I'm fine. That's why I have my coffee. It's my early morning. It's my early
Yes.
morning coffee. Mm. Um, but sometimes, and then you bring in people to audition, people they don't know who you think are right for the role. So, and then sometimes you negotiate how much the actors are getting paid, and sometimes producers and production companies have their own business affairs people to do that. But that's what a casting director does, is suggest and cajole. We don't make decisions, unfortunately. I think if we made decisions, things could be a lot better, but that's besides the point.
You did help David Hasselhoff get into, I believe you were the one who suggested him for a soap opera.
Well, yeah, no, I suggest, yeah, as you read in the book, I
Yeah, I'm
basically am responsible for all three of his network jobs. It started with the soap, I hadn't even know, as you probably read, I met him through a manager,
yes.
and immediately I saw what she saw, and I knew we had an opening on one of our soaps. This is when I was working at CBS. And so I just sent him to the executive producer of the
Yeah.
show, and they hired him. I mean, who knew? And then 10 years later, he's become a big soap star, one of the biggest soap stars. And we had this project that basically nobody wanted to do. But David wanted to be a nighttime star, so what do you call it? I take that back. I got him mixed up. He was very anxious to do Knight Rider and loved doing it and loved doing, becoming a nighttime star. Um,
Yes.
but when it came to Baywatch, it was a little different, and it required a little more cajoling. And I think he had aspired to say get into more, for lack of a better word, classier shows on television. But this is what he's being
Baywatch
on.
isn't classy?
Well, it depends on your point of view. I don't think I've ever got through an entire episode, but I didn't have to.
Yeah, I don't think you're the audience for Baywatch.
No, no, I wasn't but not that I wasn't the audience. It was, I knew what it was, and please, so it was fine. I actually, that's not true. I did watch a couple of episodes. But the interesting thing is that I wrote in the book that it
Yeah.
wasn't until, again, her name just went out of her head, Barbie, who joined the show, that the ratings took off.
Pamela Anderson?
Pamela Anderson. God, how could I forget her name? I think it's so good about her and what's his name and oh God, see, this happens to me. I forget
Are
names
you
all the time.
thinking like Tommy Lee
No, I'm talking
or
about Liam Neeson.
Liam
Her and Liam
Neeson?
Neeson.
Oh, yes, they met on the
I think
set
that's
of Naked
wonderful.
Gun.
I think that's wonderful.
Yes, it is. You wouldn't have thought those two would
Oh,
ever find each other, and then you see them and they clearly are enjoying
absolutely,
life together.
absolutely. And they ain't spring chickens either, so that's terrific. That's even
Yeah.
better.
I don't know how much you know about this, but I have to ask. I am a huge Letterman fan. When I told people I was going to be talking to you, I got a bunch of questions about the airplane auditions.
About what? The airplane auditions? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Ask.
Ask. Do you know much about them bringing Letterman in? Because what we know about him now, it's like, why would they like that seems like a weird choice to even bring in
No,
for
at
a
the
movie.
time that airplane was done, Letterman was like he hadn't settled into the eminence grisée that he is now.
That is true.
He was another actor who had been in a couple of things. He did like a morning variety show, if you will. He did a number of things, and
Yes.
just try to fit him into stuff. It never, it wasn't anything special at that point to have him in for things. It
Got
was
it.
something he would normally do.
So he'd just be
And
called
it
in for
obviously didn't
movies.
work because he's not an actor.
No. What year was Airplane? Because I think Airplane came out later than I'm thinking it did. If you're mentioning the morning show.
Yeah, I don't remember the actual year, Airplane. I don't have my phone handy to just check.
Yeah, I can check. It's what year?
Hey, ask Siri. She knows everything.
1980.
Yeah,
Okay, so it'd have been, I think, just before the morning show, but the timeline is that area.
yeah, yeah.
So he would have already appeared on Password Plus and made the game show rounds.
Probably. I don't know. I didn't know that. I never saw them, so I don't know.
Yeah. This is what happens when you talk to people who know more about David Letterman than they do their
Mhm.
family.
Well, the only thing to tell you about Letterman, if what you're leading up to is the Letterman show with Joaquin Phoenix when he looked like one of ZZ Top. When he came.
Yes.
Was that where you were leading with all of this? Anyway, the point is,
Yes, you talk about that also.
if you watch that carefully, at the end of it, you will see Joaquin sort of lean over to him and whisper in his ear. And if you look, Letterman going, "Oh, just a little thing like that, like
Yes.
now I see." Now I knew what that was going to be because his mother. Joaquin's mother, who was my secretary when I started NBC, and we're still friends 56 years later, we're still good friends.
Yeah,
She told me, she didn't tell me what to expect, but she said, just wait for the end. So I knew that
you
it was
knew
there.
it
Of
was a put on.
course, yeah. And a great one. It
It
was too
was.
good. It was actually too good because people then really thought Walk was nuts.
Yes.
And he's eccentric, but he's not nuts.
Didn't he win an Oscar afterwards, or was it
Yes, and he won
before?
an Oscar for Joker.
So it would have been
He
afterwards.
should have won one for when he played Johnny Cash.
That was when
She won, what's her name? Who wins everything? She won for playing June Carter, Nash, but he was just as good as she was. He should have won for that too. She meaning what's her name? Does the morning show?
Renee
Blonde.
Zellweger?
No, no, the morning
Reese
shows.
Witherspoon?
Reese Witherspoon, yeah, she played June Carter Cash. They were a couple. and they both did their own singing.
Yes.
And for some reason, she won an Academy Award and he didn't. Oh well, later on he got one.
Yes. So he did get his Academy Award for a
Yeah.
different
And well
movie.
deserved too.
Yes, definitely. Um, so many things in your I'm a little overwhelmed by your career. I'm just
Well, I
amazed.
am too, if it means anything. So it's a very had a very good, interesting time with it. So.
You were head of TV talent at Paramount, and that was when you would work with, was that Grant Tinker at that
No,
time?
Grant Tinker was the Mary Tyler Moore Company,
Yes.
MTM Company. That was Grant Tinker. He was married to Mary, and they jointly had this company. And after they divorced, Grant sort of kept the company, and Mary went to New York to do all the things she subsequently did.
And Brandon Tartikoff, that was NBC.
Brandon Tartikoff, yes, Brandon Tartikoff was my boss at NBC. The
He
best.
then went he then
Well,
went to Paramount, but that was not in this timeline.
no, no, he went to Paramount in while I was, yeah, I think he went to Paramount just around the time that I left NBC. No, not too shortly after that.
You brought up Star Trek Phase 2, which never went to series. But how far along did that actually get in terms of casting?
I have no idea.
You have no
I mean,
idea.
what I wrote
Okay.
in the book, that I really had nothing to do with. I was just sort of giving history that I wasn't part of. So I really
Okay.
don't.
Uh, for the Love Boat, was that something you were actively involved in? I know you
Yes,
mentioned a
I
lot of
was.
things.
I'll give you the history of Love Boat. There were three Love Boat
Yes.
pilots.
Yes.
One, number two, and number three. I did number three. Nobody from number one made it to number three. My contributions were the captain and the crew and the cruise director. In other words, the captain was very easy to cast because Fred Silverman, who was head of ABC, was told, and we're love, that was a Spelling Goldberg show, which was on ABC. Anyway, Fred Silverman said, just get me somebody from the Mary Tyler Moore Show, and Gavin MacLeod was the only one left. So that was easy. And then when it came to the cruise director, it wasn't so easy because the part really had no definition in the writing. And they were like five people making the decisions. So I just brought in everyone in the world, and they couldn't make up their minds. And like finally, when they had to make up their minds because we were shooting the next week, they picked Lauren Tweez. So that's how that happened. I think she came in with the smile and the hair.
Yeah, that um
And Fantasy Island, the other show that I did for them,
yes.
that was easy too. I mean, originally we were going after James Mason, who I think would have been a good Mr. Rourke. And at first he said no, then yes, then no. Finally, he really said no. He didn't need the money, and he didn't want to go become. He didn't want us to take a step down from movies to television. But
Right.
while I was, what do you call it, sitting to Aaron in front of Aaron Spelling's office to give him bad news that someone else had passed and whatever, Aaron's secretary Renee said, "Have you thought of Ricardo Montalban?" And I said, no, but that is a great
Yeah.
idea. That's terrific. And so I went into to the office and with that idea, and that's how that happened. And by the way, I fully credited her. I mean, I went into it.
Yes.
I said, by the way, this is what Renee said. I always credit people. I never take credit for something that somebody else has done. I
And
think
I
that's the
and I can't imagine that show without Ricardo Montalban. Like that is
well, the
the
remake I
show.
never really saw. They did the reboot with a woman in that part. I didn't see it, but that it was it's yeah, it's, you're probably around somewhere on some streaming service. It didn't work, by the way. So
No, I didn't watch it either, but believe they tried to make it darker and edgier and make Fantasy Island a serious show.
oh well, if it's a serious booga booga mystery show, then fine, you could do that. But anyway, hey, I did what I did was fine. It's on the record. I did sort of supervise the casting of the first several episodes, but it's something I really didn't want to do, so I stayed away from it. But one thing was that it was interesting. Aaron Spelling asked me to do if I would meet his daughter, who wanted to be an actress, and so Aaron's secretary brought Tori in, as she was called, Victoria Tori, and she read something that she had prepared, and she wasn't bad. I mean, and because there was a role coming up, but there were two roles in this
Mm.
particular piece, so we gave her the smaller one. The big one went to who was like a best actress at that time, a young girl named Katie Kurtzman. So so Katie did the big part, and Tori made her debut in a smaller part. Everybody was happy.
And then she would go on to become Tori Spelling and do.
She got really shafted. She got
Yeah.
paid scale on what do you call it? Whatever the show, I forgot the name of the show. Beverly Hills 90210. Everybody else got real salaries. She got scale. Well, her father was producing it. He didn't think it was right to give her, to pay her the extraordinary thing. So yeah, oh, she got
That
shafted by her family.
I had no idea. And that's how she ended up in reality TV with.
Absolutely, she needed money. Her mother also, I mean, her father left her about $1 million or something, but not a lot, considering that he had 500 million at least.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Oh well, she's doing fine.
Yes, she's doing fine now.
I hope so anyway. She seems like a very nice person.
And towards the end, I believe this was one of your last jobs as a casting director. You were involved with Pop Stars, which was a
Oh,
reality
that was
show that aired
fun.
on WB.
Yeah.
I was the lower end of the target demographic when that came on. So
Oh.
I
I
was
didn't
I
know
re
part, I think we aired on ABC at first.
was it ABC?
At first it was ABC, yeah, yeah. I think later on, I think the first two seasons were ABC. I don't know what happened afterwards, but I'm pretty sure it was ABC.
It might have been because I remember watching it Friday nights and it would be scheduled with Sabrina the Teenage Witch
Um,
right
Yeah,
after it, I believe.
yeah, that would have been good scheduling. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I had fun doing that, and I loved what happened to Nicole Scherzinger.
yes, she's got albums and she does Broadway and the
Well,
West
she
End.
what people may not know is I think she did a lot of concert work in Europe and all over the globe because she has this extraordinary voice. So she actually was doing very, very well until, she didn't need to go into the recent Broadway production. She had a whole career going for her, and of course the Pussycat Dolls.
Yes.
So, she's worked and earned everything, I was glad I was part of that.
And that was Eden's Crush, I believe, came out of that.
Yeah. That's a name they came up with. I had another name. I wanted them to call themselves Dusk, Dusk, because all of the women, none of them were like pink and rosy like you are. They were all tanned. None of them were English roses. They were all dusky looking. So but obviously they didn't want that. So,
So we got Eden's Crush, I
and then
believe,
then they had a hit record.
and then they disbanded.
Well, no, what happened was the record company went bankrupt. London Records, that they were assigned to as part of this, they had one album, and that was it. London Records, London Sire was the name. The whole bunch of record companies went out of business at that time. So that's what happened there.
Yeah, and we never heard from the rest of them again except for Nicole with the Pussycat Dolls.
Nicole, I think someone wound up as a broadcaster
Okay.
a little while. I forgot which one. Anna Maria Lombo. I don't, whichever one someone did. But you're right. Nothing, no one, nothing happened to any of them. You know, there was a boy who was in the next version who did a little television work afterwards, but that was it.
Is there a specific part of your career that you want to talk about more or go into more detail? Because
Well, no, I mean, the
there's a
kind of
lot.
work speaks for itself. Grease, I always lead with people
Yes.
ask, what have you done? I say, Grease, Airplane, Rocky Horror Show. Is that enough? Grease was absolutely,
Yes.
everything about it was absolutely perfect. And what I did on Grease, which, um, to give you a little background, Alan Carr, the fabulous Alan Carr was a great promoter, and it was his idea to make a movie of Grease. And he and a writer, Bronte Woodard, wrote a draft where they opened up the movie and did a really, really good job of opening the movie.
Hmm.
But they did a really terrible job with the dialogue. They replaced all the good dialogue from the original play with their newly written dialogue, which wasn't half as funny or half as good. And so uh, one of the things, and this became apparent, Olivia, by the way, did not, initially, she wasn't interested in the role. She only was interested once she met Travolta and thought he was very nice. But she was a big, huge star, and she had only one acting experience before where she thought she was terrible. So she didn't
Yes.
want to be embarrassed. So she asked for a screen test, which, as I said in the book, I've never heard an actor asking for a screen test. It's always the producer or the
Yes.
network or something. So what happened is for some reason, the writer was not on the set that day. And Alan wasn't on the set. You would think something so important, they would be there, but they weren't.
Yeah,
Uh,
you
I,
definitely.
I, I was there. So at first time they ran the scene, the crew wasn't laughing. They had never seen the scene before, but it's supposed to be a very funny scene, one of the funniest, and no one was laughing. And again, no laughter. So I pulled out I looked at the pages and I pulled out the original script from the Broadway musical. I said, this is why it wasn't working. It's all different dialogue. So I gave them the original play dialogue, and in the next take, the crew was laughing. So that's the first most important thing I did with Greece is to get Olivia in, make sure that
Right.
she came in, because she wasn't anxious to do it. And the other thing was Alan Carr. Then he had had one of the first bariatric surgeries to lose, 100 pounds or something, and it got infected, and he was in bed all day, and he couldn't come to the set. He was sick. So I took over without any credit or anything, most of the producing duties.
Yes.
Like for instance, Randall Kleiser, or not Randall Kleiser, yeah, Randall came over, the director. We should reiterate that Randall and I were very close friends, and I started his career by casting his USC master's thesis of all things.
Yes.
Uh, anyway, we were told we can't go to Magic Mountain. We can't afford that because Randall had planned to do the last scene at Magic Mountain, and which I always thought was a mistake anyway. So what happened
Right.
was he comes over and tells me this, and he's all despondent. I said, "No," I said, "This is great. This is a tacky little church school carnival. It doesn't bel we don't belong at Magic Mountain." And of course,
Right.
I was right. If you look at the end of it, it would have been ridiculous at Magic Mountain. Well, not ridiculous, but this was much better. This is down and dirty. And Grease at its heart is a dirty teenage story.
Yeah.
It's all
Yeah.
it is. It's a dirty story.
Yeah.
It's
Magic
all
Mountain
things that
feels
teenage, yeah.
out of place.
Yeah, it did. And it didn't happen, so that was good.
You also mentioned Rocky Horror, which is still huge.
Yeah.
It was originally a play in the UK, and then it came over to the United States, and then you were involved in casting the American performers in the movie version. Is that correct?
Yes, but it started by casting what do you call it? Normally, a play from England will come over to the States and it'll play New York. This one, Lou Adler, who owned the Roxy nightclub in LA, bought all of the rights, signed them all up, and put it in his nightclub, the Roxy nightclub. And he was right, it ran there very successfully for 9 months. So I was asked to cast the stage production in LA.
Okay.
And uh, first, I knew that Barry would be sensational in it. And I went to him and was told Barry did not come to Los Angeles to do another play. He came to Los Angeles to do movies and television. So if this is ever a movie, come back. And Susan wasn't even on the radar for that. But anyway, it was successful. And then um, the movie was going to happen right after the play closed. So we had auditions at the Roxy. And the girl who had played the part, I mean, anyone who was in the stage play, with the exception of Meatloaf, was not going to be in the movie. Meatloaf, we knew we wanted in the movie for obvious reasons, because he was
Yeah.
sensational. Um, so anyway, we had, and Susan had just done, I knew Susan and her husband, Chris Sarandon, just from New York, from being around actors and being David Merrick's casting director. So I knew them socially.
Yeah.
And when they moved out to California, I had them to dinner at my house, along with Randall Kleiser, the director, Barry Bostwick, and Barry's manager, Bob Lamond. Spaghetti and meatballs on laps in my one
Yeah.
bedroom, tiny little apartment. But it was great. And at one point, Chris Sarandon and Randall Kleiser went into the bedroom because they wanted to watch a TV movie with Gloria Swanson called The Killer Bees. Anyway, in the living room was just Susan, Barry, Bob, myself, maybe one other person. Anyway, Susan and Barry locked eyes, and a couple of days later, Susan had left her husband, and she and Barry were an item. Also, at this point,
Yeah.
Susan's career was just really getting to the point where she could be a movie star, and her agents wanted her as far away from Rocky Horror as possible. They thought it could ruin her career.
Yes.
Most people did, by the way. Every project I've done seemed to be I had to explain what it was, like Airplane. Most people didn't get the stuff that I was offered to cast. Anyway, um,
Yes. And they've
so
all become,
Susan had brand new agents. She didn't want to go against them, so I figured out a way to protect her and get what I wanted, which was I just asked Barry to bring her along to the audition. Just bring her, and I'll take care of everything else.
yeah.
So Barry had no idea what was to happen.
Hmm.
So so as a casting director, I would normally read with the actors. So I'm on stage reading with Barry, and I stopped in the middle of the second line or something and said, this is ridiculous. Why are you reading basically, why are you reading with a balding 30-year-old man? Susan, could you do me a favor and come up here and read with Barry? Thank you. And then I sat down. So she wasn't auditioning.
Right.
She was helping me with my audition. Anyway, the director looked at me and said, "Who is she? What has she done? Blah, 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 blah." And then he asked if she could sing. And I said, "I don't know." And so we asked her if she could sing, and she sang in that sweet little soprano that you hear in the movie. She sang Happy Birthday because she said, "Oh, I didn't prepare anything." I said, "Well, you just sing Happy Birthday." And
Yes.
anyway, so that's how she got in the movie. And Susan and Barry's relationship did not last long. I mean, within a week into filming in England, they were completely over. Um, and what else? I guess that's that. But I ran this story, everything in the book I ran past Barry.
Okay.
Susan's not interested in, she's pissed that Rocky Horror is probably going to be the first thing on her tombstone, so.
Why?
Well, like Stockard Channing with Grease, it's the same thing. These are women who
Yes.
consider themselves serious actresses, and Grease is not considered serious, except by people who really know it. It's incredibly serious and incredibly wonderful. And still, even today, the largest grossing musical ever.
Yeah, both of those are classics that are beloved by millions. I would
Mhm.
think you'd be happy that that is what people remember you for, but
I'm very happy. I mean, I
yeah.
love it when people refer to, I see myself referred to as legendary casting director and stuff like that. It's very ego satisfying at
Mhm.
at 83. So, it's fun. It was fun. I had a great time doing it. I never felt like work, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I didn't realize you were 83.
No, I don't look at or act it, so you
No.
shouldn't.
One of the cool things about the book is you document your this series in the last chapter that were on
Oh yeah.
NBC
Yeah.
while you were there, that you helped make sure that the programs were cast, as you say, correctly. And it is a pretty long list. It covers 3
10 years.
seasons?
10 years.
10 years, yeah, I just saw it, 1981 to 1989, I believe.
Yeah. Roughly 10 years. Nine and a half. Who's counting?
Yes, because yeah, I just the page I turned to has Seinfeld on it.
Well, Seinfeld, I mean, all I did was just, when I was asked, what do you think of these people? I said, they're all great. That was my contribution. No, because Seinfeld was not done through the normal route. It was not done through the comedy department. It was done through the specials department. As
Right.
you the book, I won't go into it because it's a little complicated now. But Rick Ludwin, who was in charge of specials, um, it asked me, said, "This is who they want to hire. What do you think?" I said, "They're great. They know what they're doing." Leave 'em. And he knew that they knew what they were doing.
And as I was flipping through, 2 things that stood out to me were Taxi, because that is one of the shows that I am currently watching, and then The Cosby Show. I think there's Cheers in here also somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I didn't cast Cheers, but when after the show got a pickup, the producers and the writer, Jimmy Burrows and the Charles brothers, came into my office on the way out of the building and said, "We got the pickup. Great." I see they asked me to cast it, and I couldn't because I was just overwhelmed with the network with what I had to do, and I couldn't do it myself. But I said, I'm gonna give you someone from my department and who was the best guy in my. I did something stupid. I should have fired. I had to get rid of. No, I'm explaining. At the same time this is going on, I had to
Mhm.
cut one person from my department, and I
Yes.
decided to cut the best person, not the worst person, because the worst person wouldn't have been able to get a job if I fired her. But what I
Yes.
did is I gave St I said, Steve, look, I'm going to let you go, but I'm letting you go with a show of your own. They'll give you an office. They'll do everything for you. I should have asked him first if he wanted that. That would have,
Yes.
instead of telling him, look what I've done for you. But hey, I couldn't undo it. But I did tell the Charles brothers and Jimmy, you're going to see everybody because you have six on the air, your reputations. Everybody's going to want to do the show, but you're going to wind up with Shelley Long and Ted Danson. You're going to see everybody, but these are the people you're going to wind up with. Shelley, we
Yes.
knew, but Ted, Ted was a little more difficult, but that's exactly what happened. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going through that show right now, and I can't imagine Ted Danson not being, um, Sam Mayday Malone.
Well, his competition. Do you know William Devane, Bill Devane? I
I
wrote in the book.
yes,
Do you
I
know who he is?
I've heard the name, I don't know, I can't see
Well,
a
the biggest thing
face.
he did was look it up and watch it. It's wonderful. It was a television movie called The Missiles of October. It was a TV movie, and Bill Devane played JFK. And I think he won a award for it. He was sensational. He was what they wrote in the script. Bill Devane at the time cast was being cast at the time we were casting Cheers was about 45, maybe a little older,
Yes.
over the hill as a ball player, and he was exactly what they wrote.
Hmm.
But what happened was I brought in Ted because I just knew whatever it was, I knew that he would be a better choice. He wasn't what they wrote,
Right.
it was exactly what they wrote. Ted was something different. And eventually I did a lot of, believe me, it was not an easy choice. I mean, and ironically, there wasn't one woman involved in making the decision of who is the sexier of the two men, which one should get the part. Anyway, finally, that guy said it kept going round and around. Uh, some people wanted Devane, some people wanted Bill Devane, including Grant Tinker wanted Bill Devane, and because he's the boss.
Right.
And and finally, at the end, it kept going round and round. No one was able. It was finally I said, "Look, let me cut through it all. I think more women in America are going to want to fuck Ted than Bill." And and literally with those words, and Grant Tinker clutched his pearls. You know, yeah, and
Yeah.
basically, whatever happened went around the room again, and they all voted for Ted. It was my vulgarity that made that happen.
Yeah. I yeah, that would clearly be something that they should have been taken into consideration, and apparently you needed to point that out to them.
And through Facebook, ironically, I think we became Facebook friends, Bill Devane and I. And I knew Bill Devane before that. We knew each other before that,
Yeah.
just through New York acting circles. So I wrote, I said, I hope you've forgiven me for for Cheers, for the Cheers stuff. And he said, oh, please, I'm over that. He said, and then he went on to say that you guys made the right decision. He said, I would have come off like Archie Bunker. And he was right. If he
Yeah.
had played that, he would have come off like an angry middle-aged man, So he was absolutely cool with it, and just to say how much of a mensch he is.
That is
Yeah.
that is amazing that he's like, "Yeah, I wasn't the right one for it."
Well, I'm not the right, but he said, he was a better choice. He
Yeah.
could have played it, and it would have been one thing, but he
It
was
would have been a different show.
it would have been a different show, absolutely, and it wouldn't have gone. And the best casting of that, however, was replacing what's her name, Shelley, with oh God,
Kirstie
the best,
Alley?
Kirstie Alley. That's what gave Cheers the second 5 years or 6 years.
Yes.
That was a saver.
And then we got Frasier from that.
That's true, and yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, if you do the this begat this begat this begat
I know,
this,
we'll be here all day.
yeah. But they're all good.
Yes, they are. There's also the chapter on The Cosby Show. How involved in The Cosby Show were you? It has been a few weeks since I've read this book, so I don't remember
No, no, there, I'll tell you because it was I
all
remember
the
I was
details.
very, very involved with it because we only had 2 weeks to cast it.
Yes.
But Barry, I forget the reason why is not important, but he only had 2 weeks to cast it.
Mhm.
So I hired a casting director in Chicago, and I had a casting director in New York already, and one in LA. So all three cities were done at the same time. So Cosby had said this is what he wanted. He wanted a beautiful, light-skinned woman who spoke Spanish, who was able to speak Spanish, because his first wife was a beautiful, light-skinned woman who came from a Spanish-speaking Caribbean island, whatever it was, and she spoke Spanish. Because he
Okay.
envisioned his wife being like Ricky Ricardo. He would
That makes
stream.
sense now.
So that's what he was envisioning. But so anyway, the normal casting process was started. About 6 months before that, Dreamgirls was playing Los Angeles, and my friend Nell Carter gave a party for the cast, and I was invited to the party. And at some point, Nell grabbed my hand and said, "Oh, you got to meet Debbie's sister." I had no idea what she was talking about. So, Debbie, what are you talking about? She said, Debbie Allen's sister. So she brings me over, and Felicia was understudying the lead role at that point in Dreamgirls downtown. And
Yeah.
we just started talking, and then there was a server who came over with drinks or something, and I said thank you in another Spanish phrase, gracias y da da da,
Yeah.
and I said I hope my Spanish was good. Laughing, she said no, your Spanish was excellent. She said I went to school in Mexico, so
Oh.
so she was complimenting my speech, and then so I just picked up the fact that she spoke Spanish. So 6 months later, when we were doing the Cosby casting, I said to the New York people, "There's a woman in New York. I forgot her name. She's Debbie Allen's sister, and she was in the L.A. company of Dreamgirls. Bring her in as soon as possible." So that she would have come in anyway because she was obvious, but she came in and she cinched the part. She clinched the part by when she was upgrading her son, instead of finger pointing and doing that, she
Yeah.
just calmly looked at him and read him the riot act very calmly, like this. And that got her the part, that audition. I mean, she was great. Obviously, it worked.
Yeah. Like I've spoken to a lot of people where we all know what happened with Bill Cosby and why the Cosby Show uh, isn't shown as much as it used to be. But you saw with Malcolm Jamal Warner's passing that we still make references to it. It's still a beloved show, even though we're all struggling to reckon with the history that came out afterward.
I'm not sure when we say we all, I'm not sure the public does as much as we think. I think
Yeah,
if they,
maybe.
I don't think it's running in syndication anywhere, but it probably will again. Every
I bel
scandal will
Yeah,
die down eventually, you know.
that is true. I believe it was being aired on Bounce or some of the channels that specifically target an African American audience because that is a pivotal show in terms of representation on TV
Oh, of
for that.
course it,
Yeah.
oh, of course, absolutely. Absolutely,
That's
yeah.
why it's such a complicated
Yeah.
thing to look at this point. Would you like to add anything else? The book is Sex, Drugs, and Pilot Season, which you can get off of Amazon or through Bear Manor Media.
Yeah, I think Amazon is, but no, I just I've had a great life. It's like I look back at what I've done, growing up on a farm in Brooklyn to start things off. Come on, how much more unusual can you get? But I look through it and I've had all these particular phases of my life. I never cared about becoming incredibly rich or anything. I just wanted to be able to afford a comfortable life, which is what I've done. I had good real estate karma. Um, so I'm living in a house that I bought 51 years ago,
Wow.
when this was a sketchy neighborhood, and
Is
people
that the
didn't.
one you shingled the roof
Yes,
yourself?
yes. No, not the roof, the entire
Oh,
house.
the entire house.
The entire house I did, yes, because and also that has I'll tell you the stories in the book. How do do you, in the movie of Airplane?
Yes.
Well, first of all, do you know does the name Howard Jarvis mean anything to you? Being from the East Coast, it probably doesn't. Howard Jarvis was a state senator, a California state senator, who
Okay.
pushed through an amendment to the state constitution fixing real estate taxes as of the last sale, which was a really good thing to do because if imagine a couple, some a couple buys a little house somewhere that they could afford, and all of a sudden that neighborhood, which was once a sketchy neighborhood, has become
Yes.
a fabulous neighborhood. So taxes used to go up as the land value went up, but
Yes.
it doesn't anymore. It's fixed at the last sale. So the
Oh,
last
wow.
sale of my house was at $21,000. So my taxes were like $750 a year for the house I'm sitting in now. Um, and I repaid Mr. Jarvis by putting him in the movie Airplane. He did something nice for me. And so he's sitting in the taxi cab at the beginning of Airplane, at the end of Airplane, when you hear the funny things about the red and white lines and stuff like that. So when someone does something nice for me, I always try to pay it back.
That
Always
is
been good.
wow. But I'm glad it worked out. I did not realize that was the house you still lived in. That is very
Well,
cool.
I lived in several other houses
Yes.
in the interim, but when I stopped working, and and basically well, I did my photography business, which I did for a while.
Yes.
Uh, um, and then I wrote the book. So I've had income come, and actually I got royalties on the book, which I never thought I would get a penny. But Bear Manor Media, I got to tell you, they paid from first copy. So, it turned out it wasn't a good upfront deal, but anything that comes in now, they're very good with. So I'm thrilled that, just that I got a royalty. It's like, you know, I'm a real author. I got a royalty. So,
Very
anyway,
cool.
yeah. Well, look, thank you for this. I've had a good time doing
So
this.
have I. Thank you again.
You're more than welcome. If you think of anything else you want to ask, I could always answer it in an email or something. So let me know.
I appreciate that. I'm Allison Lips. Joel Thurm has been nice enough to join us today, so please go and get his book, Sex, Drugs, and Pilot Season: Confessions of a Casting Director, off of Amazon or Bear Manor Media.
It's hard to say Bear Manor. Bear Manor, just the words don't go together easily.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
We're gonna need to bring that up with Ben.
Manor
And
Media with two M's. Anyway,
yes, and thank you for listening. Until next time, remember, television is a medium neither rare nor well done. Bye.
I love that. Thank you. Bye.